Once there was a man who liked to drink. He would drink himself silly and go walking in the night. He would walk through fields and across roads and under the branches of the black invisible trees. He was a normal man, not dumb but not so smart that he was miserable all the time. He was okay with being normal. His wife still loved him and didn't mind if he had a few drinks or a lot of drinks. He always ended up back in the bed beside her. One night, he had quite a few drinks with his friends. By the time the party ended, there were several empty bottles of wine and quite a few sleepy friends. The man took one last drink and walked home. The sky was dark, black with clouds, and the stars were nowhere to be seen. He stumbled along the empty road, singing loudly and listening to the crickets fiddle along with him. The night grew quiet, and his voice seemed out of place in the calm. He could smell that peculiar smell, like the smell of a wet rock, that heralded a coming storm. He liked that smell. The night lit up, a sudden flash of white light followed by a loud boom. Then the rain came, falling in furious flurries, soaking his clothes, his shoes, his socks, and his hair. He smiled at the water hitting his face and stamped his feet in the rapidly forming puddles. He walked a little faster and dreamed in the darkness of the dry warmth awaiting him beside his wife in the bed. All at once the world exploded around him. There were blue, white, and silver lights all around him and a tremendous booming in his ears. He was cold and wet one moment, and the next he was burning. His brain felt like it was coming undone, displaying its paltry contents open for the world. The tips of his toes and fingers tingled, and his internal organs shivered. He felt like he was hovering just above the asphalt road. It was a sensation like nothing else he had ever felt. The world, life, everything came into sharp focus, and he understood it all. He let loose a primal scream at the revelation. It came from a place inside him he did not know existed, and ripped from his lungs with unexpected violence. Then, everything was dark. When he woke up, he was in a strange bed in a strange room with green walls. He looked around and realized he was in a hospital bed. He sat up, but he felt very dizzy, so he rested his head on the pillow. He waited for someone to come in and tell him what was happening. His wife came in and hugged him and kissed him and held his bandaged hands. "What happened?" he asked her. "I feel so empty." "You were struck by lightning," she told him. He rolled onto his back and stared at the ceiling. He stared at his wife as she prattled happily beside him, but he did not hear what she was saying. He watched her lips move and her eyes flick back and forth. Something was different. He felt different. He could see that she could not tell. "Please," he said at last, "I feel so empty." "I don't know what you mean, darling." He stared at the ceiling and said nothing. He ignored the tears that formed in his wife's eyes. She uttered a cry and fled the room. Many months passed and the burns healed, but he was changed. Many heated words flew at him from his parents, from his wife, from his friends, from his brother. His face never changed. He looked far away. "You don't understand," he told them. "This is all meaningless." His wife pleaded with him. "I wish you could know what it felt like," he told her. "I'm hollow now." After months of this kind of talk, she packed her bags and moved in with her sister. The man sat on the porch drinking and staring into the black prairie sky. His wife called to make sure he was okay. "It was beautiful," he said. "I was beautiful." She hung up the phone. His parents stopped by and he told them about the night he had been touched by lightning. Their faces drooped with worry. His mother asked him about his wife. "I wish you could have been there," he answered. Their caring smiles sagged, but he did not notice. They left. His father clutched his mother's worrying hands in her lap as they drove away. A few days later, his brother came over. He brought 2 large paper sacks full of different kinds of alcohol. He sat down by his brother on the porch and handed him a bottle of wine. He looked at the bottle and smiled. "Good idea," he said. The two of them shared the bottle, taking large burning gulps. The man told his brother what it had been like, being in the grip of the lightning. "So what? It's over," his brother said. The man drank the rest of the bottle. He stared at a slow-moving wall of black clouds that smothered the prairie. "There's more to it than this," he said. "You can't understand." What are you going to do? His brother wondered. I'm going for a walk. His brother looked at the clouds and shook his head. He tried to make the man wear a coat, but he refused. It's not how it happened, he said. I don't know what you mean, his brother replied. But it was too late. The man had taken a bottle and run into the storm. The rain beat him in a wild frenzy. He ran down the road, taking giant swigs from the bottle and shouting into the darkened sky. In the distance, he could see flashes of light, streaks of electricity silently striking miles away. He ran and shouted, and his tears mingled with the rain. He felt very dizzy. Come back to me, he shouted. His thoughts careened dangerously, and his steps faltered. His equilibrium vanished, and the dark sky spun around him. He wanted to throw up. He woke up in his bed, in freshly laundered pajamas. His wife sat glumly at the end of the bed, watching TV. Why am I here, he wanted to know. Why didn't you leave me there? It was your brother. He called me. He said you collapsed in the rain. Your family won't come over anymore. They said you were breaking their hearts and they couldn't bear it. Why are you here? He looked into her watery eyes. Because I am your wife and I love you. And being in love is having a broken heart and loving anyway. I thought it would work, he told her. I thought if I got drunk like last time that it would find me again. Maybe if you got a kite and a key. He scowled at her, the machinery of his mind slowly rumbling behind his eyes. You're joking, he said. I hope so, she replied. He stared at the ceiling. She shifted and laid down next to him, resting her head on his chest. The room was quiet except for the tinny voices from the TV. He put his arm around her and stroked her back. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, he said. He kissed the top of her head. Yep, a once-in-a-lifetime thing.